Okay, welcome everyone. For those of you just joining us, we appreciate everyone for being here today. We're all gathered to talk about those darn DPAs. It's one of our favorite webinars to host. It's a going to be a great afternoon. We're going to be diving into five of the most common misperceptions, objections, and obstacles that we hear about when it comes to transactions involving down payment assistance. The purpose of the webinar is really to help everyone feel more confident and comfortable when working with these programs. So I guarantee that we're going to have some fun, maybe ruffle some feathers. But with that said, let's get started. My name's Will Medina, part of our DPR team. We also have with us today Lori Johnson, our customer success specialist, and Melinda Harris, our director of marketing and communication, an all-star team. They will be answering questions in the background. We always ask that you use the Zoom Q&A feature to engage with us as we go. We find it's a lot easier to track and answer your questions there. However, we are still monitoring the chat as well, which um, throughout the afternoon, feel free also to kind of network with one another. We find that it's a great place to kind of connect with other lenders, with other agents. So, use that chat feature as well. And just as a quick note, today's recording of the webinar will be shared with everyone. So we're going to be kicking things off today with a brief overview of the current state of down payment assistance programs. From there, we're going to be diving into the perceptions and misperceptions surrounding DPAs. Specifically, we're going to look to tackle the five most common obstacles and objections that we hear when it comes to working with these programs. We're going to be addressing those challenges head on, sharing insights and feedback from industry peers. We're talking real estate agents and loan officers from across the country who are proficient in down payment assistance. They've actually helped us identify best practices to cut through the noise and, most importantly, to clarify some timelines. We're also going to be sharing some practical tools that you can combine with those best practices to enhance your approach to working with down payment assistance programs. We always like to include a quick bio in the event we have any new attendees. Down Payment Resource is a national database and matching engine of all of the more than 2,500 homebuyer assistance programs across the country. Our team has decades of experience in residential mortgage finance and real estate. And most importantly, we've created tools for mortgage lenders, real estate agents, and multiple listing services that enhance the experience and workflow when working with down payment assistance programs. Ultimately, our goal here is to help you bridge the gap and connect home buyers with the down payment assistance they need. So we're going to begin with a quick overview of the current state of these down payment assistance programs. We publish a quarterly report called the Homeownership Program Index Report, where we take stock of what's available across the country. And most importantly, we look at developing trends. So here's what we found. Of all the homebuyer programs available, 74% are some form of down payment or closing cost assistance. Within that, 81% offer deferred payments, meaning no monthly payment on the DPA loan for a set period of time. 53% are forgivable, either partially or fully, essentially turning into a grant over time. And 51% are both deferred and forgivable. On top of that, there are other down payment assistance programs that function as true grants at closing or as loans with monthly payments after closing. I will add that if you're interested in a deeper dive into all things DPA, we highly suggest attending our DPA 101 webinar. In that session, we explore down payment assistance programs in more detail, including other options like affordable first mortgages, tax credits, and mortgage credit certificates. The webinar helps you understand how these programs are similar, how they differ, and what it takes to qualify for them. So who funds and administers these programs? We get this question a lot. Every state has a housing finance agency. There are local housing finance agencies in certain markets across the country as well. We have city and county governments that often have community or economic development departments or housing authorities. Many employers, like municipal governments, hospitals, universities, may also offer their employees some form of down payment assistance. You have local housing authorities and community financial development institutions, CDFIs, which increase local DPA options, and not to mention the Federal Home Loan Bank Network, which operates across the country through their member banks. There are a number of nonprofits like NeighborWorks and Neighborhood Housing Services and others that also operate in markets across the country with varying programs. And then there are community action agencies, community land trusts, and honestly, so many other organizations out there that are all trying to open new doors to home ownership and promote housing growth and responsibility in their market, which is your market. And they've all got funded and available down payment assistance programs. So, where are these programs available? Well, down payment programs are available everywhere. High cost markets, low cost markets, urban, rural. Every state has a housing finance agency, as I mentioned, whose programs are available across the state, plus all the local programs in each market. Now, income and price limits are also market adjusted based on median incomes and median prices in their respective markets. So you will see higher limits in higher cost markets. And just by looking at the infograph, you see at least top 10, right? The states with the greatest number of programs, but there is literally no county in the country where some kind of help is not available. So let's talk about some of the trends that we're seeing with down payment assistance programs, and then we'll get into rethinking our perceptions in just a moment. We're continuing to see demand for DPAs through the roof. Providers are increasing assistance amounts, income limits, and purchase price limits to help more buyers in today's market. Those same providers are also seeking to expand eligible uses of their funds as well as inventory options, right? We're talking manufactured housing, we're talking modular housing. There are new state and local programs that continue to launch in markets nationwide. That 2,500 number is a growing number. And 81% of all DPAs are funded and available. So, being that there's so much more attention on affordability and down payment assistance now than in many years, it's important to recognize that these programs are out there, they are available, and they are not going away. Here we have a breakdown of our Q2 2025 Homeownership Program Index report. Just as a quick bio, I know I mentioned it earlier, but the index report, which we publish quarterly, offers a snapshot of trends. And over the past few years, we've observed a net increase in the number of programs hitting markets across the country. Also located within the report, we've seen that 40% of programs have no first-time home buyer requirement. 39% allow for manufactured homes. 34% allow multifamily homes, 2 to 4 units. Of course, the caveat being that one of those units must be owner occupied. 25% programs are statewide. Most of the rest would be considered local. And about 400 programs offer extra incentives for military service, professions, and so on. Okay, so now let's talk about down payment assistance, right? The perception of down payment assistance. What we've noted are some of the common things that we hear, especially, let's say, from the lender perspective, but we'll be considering lenders and real estate agents as we go. Starting off, we hear that down payment assistance programs add costs. There's little to no margin, and so that makes them unprofitable to originate. We hear that down payment assistance programs add a layer of post-closing complexity and risk. And looking at it from the lender perspective, we're referring to getting loans off of the books, sold, and then off to a servicer. We hear that DPA training is hard to implement. There are adoption questions. Are loan officers going to originate these down payment assistance programs? Will closing timelines be delayed because of the use of a DPA? And most importantly, will the program run out of money after a loan application is submitted? Taking all of this into account, what we are essentially hearing from many in real estate and finance is that they love the concept of DPA, but they struggle with the logistics and the economics of these programs. So that's why we're here today, to help combat some of these perceptions. We are here to essentially rethink our approach to and understanding of down payment assistance programs. In fact, we are going to give you millions of reasons to rethink DPAs. But first, let's outline the 5 most common objections or misperceptions we hear about DPAs. So, just to set the scene here, we're going to acknowledge and discuss what the issue is, whether real or perceived. Then, we're going to talk through the solutions to these issues and potentially debunk some of them. So, first off, inventory. We know inventory remains tight in most markets. This is real, but there are creative things that can be done to help uncover different inventory options. Next, there's confusion about down payment requirements. Looking at it from the prospective buyer side, too many aspiring buyers still think they need 20% down and are unaware about low down payment mortgage options or even DPAs, thus giving up on the idea of homeownership. We know over the past few years, many sellers, or more than likely the listing agents representing them, have been somewhat apprehensive about accepting contract offers from buyers using down payment assistance programs. So, we're going to be talking through the issue, how to address it, and deal with that kind of misguided apprehension. Another concern that's been around for many years is the misperception that all DPAs inherently extend, prolong, or delay the purchase transaction. So, again, we'll be talking through how that's not often the case and how those misperceptions arise. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, one of the biggest problems out there is the lack of productive and fruitful agent loan officer partnerships. We'll be talking about the challenges we hear from real estate agents and how loan officers can step in and help. Overall, our approach will be to present the issue, acknowledge and understand it, and then present solutions. And these solutions are what we've heard from your very own peers, agents and loan officers around the country who have weighed in on these issues. This is certainly not stuff that we've made up for you. It is all curated from your peers. So, with that, let's go ahead and dive into the inventory issue. So, limited supply due to historically low inventory. We know this is the case. This is real in just about every market across the country. This makes it very difficult for buyers to compete. Interest rates remain elevated, which we know can also stifle demand despite enormous interest in homeownership. Demand continues to be an issue. So many buyers are still competing for the same properties and have been for several years now. It's important to mention, of course, the sideline buyer that is weighing their options based on the current rate environment. Also, people who purchased in the past few years, maybe waiting to move out of their home into something smaller or maybe something bigger. We see prices steady and increasing, and overall buyers continue to struggle to compete. All of this compounds to create a difficult situation, especially for new buyers who are trying to get approved, win their bids, and ultimately get into that home. So, with all these hurdles in mind, what can we do? It's important to consider alternatives to the open market. What do we mean by that? So, we're talking about agency owned or maybe municipal owned properties and land trusts that can be combined with DPA, which can be an affordable option for first time buyers. Many local housing agencies or municipalities around the country purchase and repair blighted homes to then bring them back to market at or below cost, or even develop new properties that are meant to be affordable. We're talking homes that need minor repairs, which may give buyers the opportunity to compete and to afford a home they can make their own. And I, of course, want to be clear, we're not talking about like a gigantic hole in the roof, but more so those homes that don't get snatched up in the first week or two because maybe they require a little TLC, but can ultimately offer a handy or motivated buyer another outlet for inventory. It's also important to note that we should be getting to know agents that list these affordable properties. Get on their email list to monitor their coming soon offerings. It certainly helps to get ahead of the competition, which can also help open new inventory options as well. Let's not neglect manufactured housing, which we are starting to see more and more in local markets. They play a crucial part in bringing online affordable housing alternatives. It's important to counsel buyers ultimately about what the process and the competition will look like, right? Make sure they get pre-approved and probably take their home buyer education course early. It also helps to partner with a housing counselor to help incubate and prepare new buyers, ultimately helping build a bigger and stronger pipeline over time. We always like to reference an agent in Houston um, that says to use what they refer to as calculated patience, meaning narrow down the buyer's list of must-haves for their new home so that you're fully prepared to strike on a contract offer when the right property hits the market. And ultimately, be realistic about those must-haves and have those candid discussions while counseling your buyers. So now I'd like to talk about down payment requirements. Now, according to a study by the Urban Institute in 2018, which still resonates today, 65% of prospective buyers believe they need at least 15 to 20% down, with 76% having little to no familiarity with low down payment programs at all. So, home buyers aren't familiar, obviously, with terms or certain requirements. They may have a misunderstanding of debt to income requirements. One example is always how student loans, right, will impact this deal. Um, so they sideline themselves and ultimately give up on homeownership. And again, that nasty 20% down myth. So many buyers still believe that they need 20% down just to buy a home. In summary, our marketing content and activities need to better educate aspiring buyers and let them know homeownership is within reach. And most importantly, how. Given everything that I have going on, how is it possible to achieve homeownership? So, as mentioned, it's important to combat the down payment myth. We have to aggressively debunk it, especially among first time home buyers. 20% is not a requirement, and it's important that the marketing content educate buyers accordingly. It's also important for us to get outside of our bubble. We hear from so many realtors that they got into down payment assistance because one buyer came along who needed help, and then that led to a new path in their career, a new tool in their tool set, as we like to say, and ultimately a heartfelt desire to help. So it's important to align ourselves with other agents and lenders that are working in that DPA lane. It's important to tell the story of how you helped others with down payment assistance. It's great content, not just for your social media audience, but just in general, showing your experience with these programs, right? Let's let tomorrow's buyers know what you were able to accomplish for yesterday's buyer. And please make use of the educational tools that are available out there. Um, as an example, our downpaymentresource.com website or training classes from your state or local housing finance agencies, home buyer education classes. It's important to take the time to know and offer the tools that are available to home buyers. Now, part of that education is also just being willing to talk about DPAs. And we'll talk more about agent loan officer partnerships, but loan officers can help you gain comfort with DPA requirements, which will then open up a path to helping more buyers. And look, we understand if this is not for you, that's okay. It's not always a bad thing to remain in our lane, right? We know what we're doing. This is what we're kind of good at, so to speak. And if you're uncomfortable getting outside of your bubble, that's perfectly fine. But believe it or not, this is a wonderful opportunity to learn about these products and to help these home buyers. So we certainly ask that if it takes a little bit of a discomfort, pick one program, become familiar with it, get to know the program providers that run it, the lenders that originate those programs. We just ask that you not give up on those prospective buyers. So, is it true that sellers don't like DPA contract offers? Is this something that maybe you've seen in your market? We know one bad experience can sour someone's willingness to work with a DPA program again. Sometimes the seller, or more likely the listing agent representing them, may misunderstand the DPA program or associates one bad experience with all DPAs, right? Thus, painting them broadly. Remember too that sellers need help framing the value of DPA appropriately. Think about it. Did they get their closing costs covered by the DPA program? If so, agents help frame that value add to the seller. We also know that sellers, and again, their agents, obviously want certainty and they fear delays. And sometimes will associate a down payment assistance program with a lack of certainty and therefore a risk of delay. So, what can be done? Realtors leverage the experience and the expertise of your loan officer partners. They can definitely help set expectations with even the seller and their agent. If they've originated these programs, they are familiar with the timelines, with the required documentation. So it's important to connect with them and learn from them. Leverage the value of a down payment assistance program, as mentioned. Maybe DPAs could be framed as, hey, I don't need to ask for closing costs from you because I have my DPA in place. So you're going to get to net more from this transaction. This is definitely a value add. And provide assurance the deal will get done. And most importantly, done in a timely manner. Now, that also means you need to know the guidelines and the timelines for the program you're using for your client. As long as we educate ourselves and our borrowers on what is needed up front, there is literally no need to fear delay. We also have to ensure, right, that the consumer is on the same page as you. So they too should understand what is needed up front so that they are able to be invested in keeping their home purchase on track. We also keep hearing from realtors across the country, don't disclose more than you have to. Put in the contract what state law requires, but if you don't have to disclose the source of funds for DPA, then it's none of the seller's business. And remember, ask a loan officer who does a lot of DPA and does it well, and they will tell you that a DPA buyer who is qualified is still considered a qualified buyer. Up next, we're going to look at the huge misperception of DPAs extending the purchase transaction. Now, we know anything during the loan process can cause a delay. Let's not just focus on DPAs here. Think about it. Perhaps the loan officer didn't fully investigate cash to close up front, or the DPA was added later in the process. And sometimes when a DPA is added later in the process, people forget the fact that homebuyer education must be completed, right? That is across the board a requirement for many of these programs, let alone sometimes for mortgage products. And to that point, delays often stem generally from a lack of communication amongst all parties involved. So, what can we do to combat this misconception? First and foremost, let's build what we call our DPA IQ. Let's know and understand the programs that we're working with. What is the application process? What are the timelines? Is homebuyer education required? At what point during the transaction? So just clear cut, it's important to complete homebuyer education early. And in many cases, the class is, good for 1 year. It's always also important to ensure that all other services are ordered in a timely manner. We're talking about coordinating with title, seller, lender. It's often not the DPA that causes the problem, but the DPA gets blamed. Imagine that scenario where a buyer gets qualified, shops for a home, takes a while, finally signs a contract, but the bank statements have expired. So you need to update bank statements. Then you find out there's not enough cash to close. Then everyone might say, hey, let's, research what down payment assistance options might be available. But guess what? Now that transaction gets delayed. However, in that case, the DPA was not the problem. It was insufficient cash to close. The DPA was actually the solution to that problem, but could have been detected or anticipated earlier. So, agents, it's important to work with loan officers who know the DPA well and close on time. But also, as mentioned, it's important for us to build up our DPA IQ. A lot of these program providers love to connect with local agents, maybe bring you in on a class to help you better understand these programs. Now, this last issue is one of the most important in our opinion. Let's start with this. The most common question we get from real estate agents is, how do I find a loan officer that can help with down payment assistance? Specifically, loan officers that meet the following criteria. Loan officers that offer DPAs to begin with, that they're good at the DPA, and that they want your DPA first time home buyer business. The problem we found is many LOs aren't meeting this demand with the right message, that they do offer DPAs and that they are good at them. So let's break this down. First, what can real estate agents do? Well, it's important to talk to current loan officers. So the example being, ask a broker, ask peers maybe for LO referrals, or even ask program providers who their best LOs are. Many of them have, a requirement that certain lenders must be used. Some of them just have partner lenders that have originated these loans so many times that they're very familiar with them. And of course, as mentioned, it's important to educate yourself on the DPAs in your market. So create relationships with partners, loan officers, brokers that offer those programs. Also, talk with your state housing finance agency about the relationships they have with lenders and loan officers. They know who is offering their programs. Something else is do first-time homebuyer lunch and learns, right? Leverage your social media. All of this can help craft an intake strategy um, that can get you working with consumers closer, right? Create that pipeline. And also court other agents as well that list and that sell affordable and DPA eligible properties. They themselves might have great loan officer connections and also insights into some of that inventory that we talked about earlier. And then looking at it from the loan officer side, what can loan officers do better? Well, they can also continue to grow their DPA expertise, right? Work with the product development staff to get access to the programs that, they and their agent partners and their home buyer clients need. It's also good to host teaching and networking activities, hosting lunch and learns now with local agents or brokerages about the product offerings. Uh, we like to say get boots on the ground within the community, get active with local unions, employers, faith-based organizations, and more. Of course, leverage your social media and be online, be present, and available where these real estate agents are working, and definitely make sure that they're having and that they're creating an intake strategy for those new DPA buyers, and most importantly, the new real estate agent partners. So all of this to say, broadcast all of this to agents. They need to know that you're the local DPA expert that is ready to step in and ready to help. So to recap, let's make sure that we explore creative inventory alternatives, that we make sure to combat the myth that home buyers need 20% down, that we leverage the value that down payment assistance brings to a purchase transaction. Let's set buyer expectations and prepare early. Let's also ultimately create effective and innovative agent loan officer partnerships. Now, if you remember, we said at the beginning we'd give you millions of reasons to reconsider your objections and apprehensions about DPA. Well, here you go. Did you know that 33% of all declined loans are salvageable with DPA? That includes loans declined for cash to close, but also for qualifying ratio issues. Now, DPA can't solve credit or employment or property issues, but tons of declined loans could have been saved if a DPA were identified to help with cash to close or debt to income ratios. And when a DPA is applied to those declined loans, we find an average of about 6% reduction in loan to value. Additionally, we did some research a couple years ago and found that about 68 million single family homes in the US qualify for DPA. Now, this was 87% of all available homes on the market. That is a ton of inventory. And lastly, through more research, we found that about 32 million renters are mortgage ready, but many don't think they qualify. And we might ask ourselves, why is that? Well, lo and behold, it's that 20% down myth, or they believe their student loans might kill the deal, right? They're unaware of low down payment options or even down payment assistance products that can help with their purchase. We always like to say that DPA customers become customers for life. So we definitely encourage you to tell their story, help them, and they will refer their family members and their friends. In closing, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. We are here to help you and your clients find the assistance that they need. We can be reached at info@downpaymentresource.com. And with that, if there are any additional questions, we will be sticking around for some Q&A. But the team and I are extremely grateful that you were with us here this afternoon. Lori, Mel,
Yeah, hey Will. We had some good questions today. I just want to remind everyone that if you missed any of this session or you wanted a refresher, we will be sending out a recording along with the slides to everyone that registered. So you guys will have that within the next few days in your inboxes. And also too, Will, we've had a couple of our MLS customers on the call today, which is
oh, wonderful.
amazing. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions specific to your MLS, how to access our tools, anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the email address that Will has on the screen now. I also posted it in chat. That's just the easiest way to get in touch with us. And we are happy to answer questions about how to use our tools inside your MLS. But other than that, I don't think I had anything that we needed to touch on.
Thank you, Mel.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, we had a question come through. Do you offer a recorded version of the DPA 101 course? Yes, we do. Actually, if you go to downpaymentresource.com/education, I believe we have uploaded the most recent DPA 101 course. However, while you're there, go ahead and watch it. I would sign up for the next one. Obviously, we'll have, updated data. But yes, you can catch up on what we've most recently published on that education webpage.
And I actually just posted the most recent DPA 101 recording. We do house
You're
it on our
awesome.
YouTube channel as well. I posted the most recent one in chat, if anybody wants to access it there.
Thank you, Mel. Yes,
Yeah.
and actually, great plugin. Feel free to actually go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can catch a lot of our content there. So, if you're interested, say, looking back on some trends before we report the most recent ones, feel free to pop in. Catch some of those recorded webinars that were recently held. Something else that I saw in some of the answered questions with respect to, let's say, if you're new, you haven't engaged with any of our products, professionally speaking, through the MLS, or if you're a lender, give our website a try. Go run an eligibility search at downpaymentresource.com. It's literally county, city, address. It can be as simple as that to see what's available in your market. And most importantly, that information will then help you connect with the program providers to learn a little bit more um, about their programs. But I'd be remiss if I also didn't ask you um, that if you're not a part of one of our MLS partners, that you actually, reach out to us and learn a little bit more about the product offerings for you individually. We have seen how they help generate leads and actually open up, right, this new lane of business that we're here to talk about today, which is discussing down payment assistance programs. See what else might be here. A lot of great questions. Wow.
Hey, Will, I'll answer one in chat.
Oh yeah.
We've had this one a couple of times too. Is DPA only for first-time buyers? It's a great question, and I'm happy to report the answer is no. We are a database of all of the homeowner assistance programs across the country. And of the 2,500 plus programs that we currently maintain, almost 40% do not have a first-time homebuyer requirement, which is amazing. So, and there's even additional benefits that I think would surprise you guys. So I'm actually going to post. We have I think Will might have mentioned it, but we have a quarterly report called the Homeownership Program Index that we produce, and I will post in chat a link to our latest one of those. I'll also include it in the webinar follow-up, but I'll post it here as well if you guys want to take a look. But yeah, we're constantly looking at these programs and researching them and breaking them down, kind of in easily digestible terms, so to speak. But some really cool stuff. So I'll post that in the chat as well.
Thank you, Mel. I just want to, say to everyone before we go, just a huge thank you. We certainly appreciate everybody's attendance. And, if you know of someone that hasn't attended this webinar, please, give them a heads up, give them that education webpage link, have them sign up, because seeing it with fresh eyes also gives us an opportunity that if there's an experience that they've had with it, right, feel free to also reach out to us about that. We love hosting these webinars, but as Mel beautifully mentioned, if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to us at our info@downpaymentresource.com, or just visit our website, right? Try that search eligibility tool. Our socials are listed at the bottom. So also, follow us across LinkedIn, Facebook. Mel and the team are constantly posting updates there. Um, and yeah, we greatly appreciate you all being here today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. So thank you again.